All right, well, welcome everybody. My name is Brad Waldschmidt. I'm an engineer that works with the Nashville Neighborhood Street Traffic Calming Program, and we're here tonight to talk about Mossdale Drive. Before we get going, I'd like to make sure my colleague introduces herself. Abigail, can you introduce yourself?
Hey everybody, I'm Abigail McCallan, and I have the pleasure of working with Brad on this project. And if you have any questions, just drop them in the chat and I'll let Brad know. If you don't want to come off mute, you can drop them in the chat and I'll let Brad know at the appropriate time during the PowerPoint.
Yeah, thanks, Abigail. So we're here tonight to talk about traffic calming on Mossdale Drive. So what we would like to do is we'd like to deliver about a 10 or 15-minute presentation. We want to talk about traffic calming overall. We want to talk about how Mossdale Drive was selected, some of the options that we can consider for traffic calming. And then we want to present we'll call it an initial concept design. It's by no means final, but it's just sort of an initial thought for what traffic calming along Mossdale could look like. Throughout the meeting, throughout the presentation, there certainly may be some thoughts or comments or questions, and we'd like to ask for everyone to do one of two things. If you'd like to wait till the very end and come off of mute and ask a question that way, that's more than great. We do have looks like 17 participants tonight, which is a fantastic turnout. But I think we could probably manage that in the end. Another option is anytime, even during the presentation, in the bottom right corner of this WebEx meeting, there should be a chat option. You're free to add comments or ask questions at any moment in the chat, and we'll get through those at the end as well. Either one works just fine, but we probably want to go through that 10 or 15-minute presentation. And then at the end, we'll answer questions, whether it's coming off a mute or whether you want to chat them, and we'll cover them that way. So let's go ahead and go into the presentation. I want to ask my colleague, Abigail, can you confirm that the title slide is showing?
I can see it.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you very much. So what is traffic calming? The program is focused on residential streets, and the program looks at physical solutions to encourage lower vehicle speeds along those streets. We like to talk about 3 E's of traffic calming. The first one is education, and this meeting is a great example of that. We as the engineers can talk about some of the options in traffic calming to reduce vehicle speeds, but you are the experts of your street because you live there. This is your neighborhood, so you know what you're seeing. Combined, we make a really great team to try to look at traffic calming on Mossdale Drive. The second D is enforcement. Enforcing the posted speed limits is absolutely a part of traffic calming, but it is not something that the Nashville Department of Transportation or NDOT really has much jurisdiction over. So while enforcing the speed limits are important, NDOT doesn't have much say in that, but NDOT does have a part that we can play on that 30, which is the engineering, doing something from a roadway engineering standpoint to reduce vehicle speeds. Now, Nashville is a big believer in improving safety and this Vision Zero, a vision of having 0 deaths on our streets. If you look at the far left, if the really unfortunate thing happens where a vehicle is going 25 miles per hour and it strikes a pedestrian, that pedestrian has an 89% chance of survival. If you go to the far right, that same car is going 45 miles per hour and the unfortunate thing happens where it hits a pedestrian. That pedestrian has like about a 35% chance of survival. This is a very big reason why Nashville is very committed to reducing speeds closer to the posted speed limits, because we don't want any of these crashes to happen. But if they do, we want those vehicles to be driving at lower speeds for this reason. So we like to make sure we cover that. Many streets have been applied for traffic calming, over 500 streets. And in August, 85 were chosen, one of the largest selections ever during a selection cycle, and Mossdale Drive was one of those 85 streets. Now, for traffic calming, Abigail and I are here to answer any questions you have, but there may be other things that are not traffic calming that today or in the future you all may have questions or comments on. We like to make sure everyone knows about 311. You can either call 311 or go to hub.Nashville.gov. Hub Nashville is a wonderful tool for other things. It could be you feel like there needs to be more stop signs somewhere, they can study that. There may be a traffic signal that's out of malfunctioning, or a clogged drain inlet where water goes when it rains. Things like that. If you feel like someone at the city needs to know about it, this Hub Nashville tool is wonderful. So we like to take these meetings to make sure people know about this tool. But for traffic calming, we are your folks. Abigail and I, we got you covered. So I just wanted to touch on that for other things, though. So all 500 plus streets go through a scoring process where we collect a lot of data, including measuring the vehicle speeds during a particular day along each street. And so all 500 plus streets go through a similar prioritization period. And Mossdale Drive was one of the 85 that, after going through this process, was chosen. We're looking at Mossdale Drive, just to be very clear, between Bell Road and Anderson Road. So that's the section of Mossdale we're looking at. And you can see some of the data, particularly the speed data. When we did our study, the 85th percentile speed, which is the typical traffic engineering number that we look at when we collect speed data, was 33 miles per hour. And you can see there's almost 5,000 vehicles per day traveling along Mossdale Drive. I do not remember the exact location on Mossdale where this was taken. We do have that data somewhere, but I'm not prepared exactly with where it was. But that's the data, part of the data that helped get Mossdale selected into the traffic calming program. And then we do like maps. So this map just serves to illustrate what we just kind of covered, that this is Mossdale Drive, where we're focusing on the segment between Bell Road and Anderson. So that's what the map there illustrates. So we'd like to talk a little bit about the traffic calming program toolkit. What are some options that could be done to a street such as Mossdale Drive? One of the more common ones that we are seeing and implementing are these speed cushions. They are modular rubberized products that can be bolted down into the asphalt. They're about 3 inches at their highest point off of the pavement. And you can see 4 example photos of Nashville streets that have had these speed cushion deployed. So, all vehicles go over these, and it's designed to, make sure that cars aren't able to drive too fast when speed cushions are deployed along an entire street. You'll see a bullet here that says reduced impact to emergency response vehicles. I want to go to the next slide, and then we'll come back to this one. Another option we do have are speed tables. One of the differences here, there are not those gaps in between. The speed table goes across the entire width of the street. So that means all vehicles are going to be going over the speed table, really any vehicle. That can include emergency response vehicles, such as the fire trucks or ambulances that maybe need to get somewhere pretty quickly if there's an emergency situation. They'll also be going over these speed tables. So I'm going to go back a slide. One of the things regarding these speed cushions is those emergency response vehicles, the front axle where the tires are a little wider than normal passenger vehicles. Those front tires can actually straddle the speed cushion, and it doesn't impact them as much. Now, the rear tires have all that weight back there. They usually will go up on the sides that are kind of the ramp up on the sides. But one of the reasons why NDOT is typically focused on the speed cushions, a little more of the speed tables, is because it does have less of an impact to emergency response vehicles compared to the speed tables. So those are sort of 2 options in the toolkit. And again, if people have questions or comments at the very end, you could unmute, or if you want to go ahead and type questions in the chat now, we'll get to them at the end as well. So NDOT has done a few before and after studies, and we are seeing a positive result. We are seeing speeds decrease along residential traffic calming streets once these speed cushions are installed. So I just wanted to kind of communicate that we are seeing the results that are expected on several traffic calming streets in Nashville. Another option are radar feedback signs. The electronic readout that you see there is actually reporting an actual vehicle speed. And once that number goes higher than the posted speed limit, sometimes it flashes. I think in Nashville, they typically turn red so that people kind of can call their attention to the fact that they're going faster than they should be. These can have an impact. Some locations, they have more of an impact. Some locations, not as much. It truly depends on the location. We've seen some good results, but it really depends on the street for these. So these are a tool that we can pull from and use on the right locations. Another example is narrowing. Both of these streets in these photos used to not have those white lines on the sides of the road. So the pavement just seemed much, much wider. And so one of the things we had done was installed them just to kind of create a visual narrowing. Even though the pavement width didn't change, just putting those white lines can have some type of positive impact when the travel way for the cars is narrowed just a little bit. We have seen that this can help, certainly when pavement's just a little wider than normal with no markings. Um, a few other options. A photo on the left are these bulb outs where we can use vertical white posts that can go into the pavement, again, to kind of create a visual narrowing of where cars are supposed to be driving. And then on the right side, something called a chicane, where a motorist must kind of turn their steering wheel right and left or left and right to maintain in their travel lane. That steering wheel turning can also encourage reduced vehicle speeds. And then the last toolkit item we want to walk through is this neighborhood traffic circle. They're similar to roundabouts, but much smaller, and only where we can fit them into an existing intersection without having to do any widening or anything like that nature. So we have been able to put these in a few spots in Nashville, but sometimes they can be challenging depending on how much pavement's available, but that is absolutely a toolkit option. So what we want to do is we just want to put an initial concept design. I'll just go ahead and say it again. This is not final. This is just, we like to present an initial thought on what a design on Mossdale could be, and hear feedback and hear input if people like it, if they don't, what changes they might want to see. So we want to go over this kind of 2-slide concept design, and either in the chat or at the very end, unmuted, kind of get some comments. We can come back to this at the end, but kind of want to go through this. There's 2 pages here. This is the first one. You'll see that the north arrow, the north arrow is kind of pointing to the left, so it's a little rotated than when you just open up a map in an internet browser. So just please keep that in mind. It's a little rotated so that we can kind of fit it on the page a little better. But if we start at Bell Road, at that traffic signal at Mossdale, a concept design could be something like each. Let me back up. I apologize. Each yellow trapezoid you see with the letter C in it is a location where you might expect to see those speed cushions. So basically, there'd be 4 locations along Mossdale based on this concept design where speed cushions would be installed. So what the concept shows is perhaps 4 locations of those between the signal at Bell Road and then the always stop at Rural Hill Road. And then once going through that always stop, there'd be 2 additional speed cushions between the Rural Hill Road always stop, and I'm going to go to the next slide, and that Owendale Drive always stop. There's not a stop sign shown on this graphic, but I'm pretty confident that's an always stop at Owendale. And then continuing on Mossdale through the Owendale Drive always stop, there could be 5 locations of speed cushions going through Brantley Drive and then ending there at Anderson Road. So given how long Mossdale Drive is, I'm going to go back 1 slide and count real quick. I see 6 plus 5. There could be something like 11 locations of those speed cushions, and that number is determined because we don't want to put speed cushions too close to each other, say like a grocery store parking lot. That would be a little too much. But we also don't want to space them too far apart, or the people that still want to try to speed might have that longer distance to pick up higher speeds. So we really try to focus on a certain spacing, and that's what's influenced the decision here for 11 speed cushions. Again, not final. We've not done our final field work. That's something we do after this meeting in the next several weeks. So this certainly is subject to change, and we want to hear your feedback, but we just like to put something in front of the neighborhood to kind of get some input. So I think we have about 3 or 4 more slides. We want to talk about the process. We want to talk about the voting that isn't happening tonight, but the voting that will happen in the future, and then we can open it up for questions. So this is the traffic calming process, and there's 1 circle, neighborhood meeting kind of colored in red there. That's what we're at right now. After this meeting, we are definitely going to be doing more site visits, measurements, and preparing a more detailed design. Those concept designs are very zoomed out and high level. The next design, we're going to zoom in a lot closer. We're going to be identifying exactly whose front yards the speed cushions would be proposed in front of. Very much more detail, because we will have more detailed information at that time. So that would be our next step. And then after that, one of the things we want to get from this meeting is whether there's a desire to have a second meeting in the future to go over this detailed design, or if the neighborhood preferred to skip a second meeting and just go straight to an online ballot where you get the chance to vote. That's something we want to hear feedback on before we conclude the meeting. So the balloting, once the design is final, once, what we will do is, just like the meeting mailers that were sent out for this meeting, there will be a ballot, a voting mailer that gets sent out to all the residential property owners along Mossdale Drive. And you'll have an opportunity to vote whether you want the traffic calming design as proposed, yes, or whether you do not want the traffic calming design as proposed, no. Everybody gets one if they own residential property along Mossdale Drive. Each person has a unique ID code that you put into a web page, so we can kind of do some auditing and things like that. And that ballot period is open for 6 weeks. And this will be something that happens in the future, but we like to make sure we're sort of talking about the whole process. At the end of that 6-week voting period, NDOT will tally the results. And if 66% or 2/3 of everyone who voted votes yes, then the traffic calming design is going to get built and happen. But if 2/3 of the people that vote, if that threshold's not met, if it's lower than 2/3, then the design would not proceed. It would not get constructed. We would reconvene with the neighborhood lead who applied and the council member for something a little, maybe perhaps more like some radar feedback signs or something like that. But there would be no vertical things to drive over if the result is a no. Also happy to answer questions or comments on that. This is sort of a graphic of what I was describing. Mossdale Drive between Bell and Anderson, all the residential properties along Mossdale, those property owners are who the eligible voters would be. I think we kind of talked about that, but wanted to make sure we recovered that as well. So again, my name is Brad Waldschmidt. That does conclude the presentation, but we want to stay as long as we need to kind of talk through and hear comments and questions. I'm going to call on my colleague Abigail first, just because during the presentation I wasn't reading comments, but I saw many comments, which is fantastic. So Abigail, I may ask if you could sort of MC and read aloud comments or questions, and I'll do my best to address them.
Sure. Tina Hall asks, can you request to have one in front of your house, a cushion?
Absolutely. So the answer is yes, you can definitely request it, but we may or may not accommodate it. We're definitely going to focus more on things like the spacing that I talked about. Normally, we want to make sure they're not too close and not too far. We also try to make sure we don't put speed cushions right next to stop signs, because people are supposed to be stopping at those stop signs, and we want to make sure we're designing it appropriately. So it might end up in front of a particular person's house, but the request, we're going to focus more on our engineering design experience a little more so, but I do appreciate the request.
Also, can you touch on where people can find this presentation in PowerPoint?
Yes. So one of the reasons why we record these meetings now is that NDOT has a YouTube page where all the traffic calming meetings are recorded and then posted on YouTube. I feel like within 1 week or less is usually how long it takes to get them processed and uploaded at NDOT. So if you search NDOT's YouTube page, you'll see many, many traffic calming meetings. This one may take up to a week, so it won't be immediate. It may not even be tomorrow, but this meeting that we're in right here, including the presentation that was just delivered, will be available on YouTube in the near future.
I'm not seeing any more questions that you haven't already hit on.
Okay, great.
Tina, we have a
Oh,
hand raised.
yeah.
This is Tina Hall again. I ask a lot of questions. So my other question is, so you can request it. My house is a very good place to put one because people tend to, once they get right at the top of the hill, and I live right at the top of the hill before you hit Mossdale, they will hit anywhere between 50 to 60 miles per hour in front of my house. When it's the ones that tend to go very quickly. When you're putting those in, because I have concern about people coming by and ripping them out.
Gotcha. So if I understand you correctly, Tina, your concern is whether if speed cushions, if there's a successful vote, and if they get installed and bolted into the pavement, your concern is that they could get stolen and ripped out. Is that right?
Yes.
Gotcha. I hear your concern. I'll say it's a valid concern. I am not aware of that being an issue in other streets where speed cushions have been installed. That's not to say it could never happen, mind you, but I'm trying to think through if we've heard that issue, and I don't think we have. What I can say is that, if there's a successful vote and if speed cushions were installed, if those get damaged in any way, or if they get, removed, that's something that NDOT, they'd be maintaining those. And so I would say that if that happens, then I don't think the speed cushions would go away forever. I would think that would just have to be an NDOT maintenance replacement activity for them that they would be responsible for. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. So would that be the 311?
Yeah, yeah. Right now it's Abigail and I. We are your people for traffic calming. But if there is a successful vote and speed cushions eventually get installed, kind of the program's over. Yeah, at that point in the future, if there's any issues, it would be like a Hub Nashville request at that point. But right now you're in the traffic calming program, so it is us.
We've had a couple more questions pop up in the chat. Shannon Peach asked, is there a reason the entire stretch was decided upon?
Gotcha. So the reason, I'm just going to go back to the map because that helps me as a traffic engineer. I do like maps. The reason why Mossdale Drive from Bell Road to Anderson Road is being considered is because that was what a citizen applied for. It was an application for Mossdale Drive between Bell Road and Anderson Road. And so that was entered into I guess, a list of where we needed to analyze and collect data. So that is the reason why this particular section is being looked at.
Tony asked if the mailings were bilingual.
They were not. We have done multiple mailers previously. The one example I'm thinking of is Spanish. I can think of a few requests before where the neighborhood or the council member has specifically requested that. So one or two streets in mind, we have before sent out one English version mailing and one Spanish version mailing. I'm not aware of that request being made for Mossdale Drive, so we did not do that. However, if that is something that is requested by the neighborhood applicant or the council member, that's something NDOT is prepared to do and can do.
Which method produces the best results, tables or cushions?
So in my opinion, it's a tie because you either have a speed cushion, which is something vertical that cars have to go over, or you have a speed table, which is something vertical that cars have to go over. So both are measures that, the homeowners on Mossdale Drive and anybody cutting through, everyone would have to go over these. So the reason why NDOT typically favors the speed cushions is that emergency vehicle reasoning, where the front axle has a little less of an impact going over it compared to the speed table. And so for that reason, there's usually a little more of a desire to do the speed cushions, but we have found both are effective. Again, these are a few before and after studies that NDOT has done on Nashville streets, and these were speed cushions.
So what about speed cushions versus the radar feedback signs?
Oh, that's an option.
I know.
Yeah, that's a good question. Radar feedback signs are an option. We have found that something vertical that people are driving over, the cushions or tables, are more effective at reducing vehicle speeds compared to the feedback signs. Again, we've seen positive results at some locations with the feedback signs, but I think there is more of a likelihood that vehicle speeds are going to be managed better on a street like Mossdale Drive if we went with something more like cushions.
Okay. I've lived on this street for about 30 years. You mentioned one thing is enforcement. Now, I am not in favor of the speed cushion, speed tables. I'll tell you that right up front. I'm not fond of passive law enforcement. We're putting bumps in the road, inconveniencing neighbor or people that live here because we're not enforcing the laws that are on the books. And I have seen fewer and fewer patrol cars up and down this road as the years have gone on. There's supposed to be a new precinct. That's become a joke at the old Kmart location.
Yes.
I know you said you could do nothing about enforcement, but it's an issue. There is no enforcement.
Right. No, appreciate your comment. Yeah, thank you very much.
Oh, you want to cut me off? Okay.
No, we didn't.
No, I apologize. I thought you were finished. I didn't mean to cut you off. Please continue.
Go ahead.
This is Mr. Gray. This is Shannon Peach. I think I've met you a couple of times. The reason why I applied for this is because I've talked to police in the area. I've talked to council people. We've also lived here. We've lived here about 22 years now, and we weren't getting anywhere. I mean, I told the cops they could come sit in our driveway and run radar. I've told them exactly where they can catch them, right on Worley, coming off Bell Road, coming down Mossdale.
Yeah.
And this was their suggestion to me, is to apply for traffic calming or put an application in. So I waited a while just to see if things would calm down. Obviously, they haven't. They've gotten progressively worse over the years. Particularly when they shut down Smith Springs Road and they detoured people down Mossdale Drive. So my concern, and I applied for this with because I don't live, maybe 7 houses down off Bell Road, so people literally fly down through here. So we've had mailboxes taken out, but the most recent thing that's happened to us at 2724 is that somebody came down off of Bell Road. They took out 2 neighbors' mailboxes. They hit the guide wires at the telephone pole that sits right next to our house. It actually interrupted our electrical system and it popped our roof off on the corner. So, and I don't like the speed tables either, but I don't know, I really don't know what other options we have, because, like I said, I've talked to the police that have come around in the area and, talked to council people. And fortunately, Tasha's been great to approach and talk about things. She's, even come by our house. So, to look at some stuff, but I mean, just coming off Bell Road, and that's really what I applied for. I really initially, I guess, was like Bell Road down to maybe the 4-way. That's why I asked the question, why it was the full stretch. But I mean, either way, we've got kids, that get off the bus where people, right up there by Bell Road, they're trying to cross the street. I mean, it's unsafe. It's just unsafe anymore. And I've written down tags, of certain drivers that are habitually flying down the road. It does no good. I mean, I don't know what the other options would be. And it's, as frustrating as it is, for us to have to go over speed bumps and, I don't really see any other options.
I've watched on Owendale where they would literally race from one speed bump to the other.
Yeah, that's another issue. I mean, it is,
Yeah.
that's an issue too.
I don't know what the answer is. One problem we've got here is we are serviced out of the Hermitage Precinct Police Department. If you make a call, it's going to take a while for people to get here. They're understaffed. I realize every police department in Nashville is understaffed. The precinct, they were supposed to be in building at the old Kmart. It's supposed to have been open by now, and I don't know why it's not. But if there has got to be, well, one question I'm going to ask. Now, I ran across some information where these speed cushions or speed tables cost about $10,000 per site. Does anybody know if that is correct?
That seems higher than what NDOT pays for each site.
There was 2 requested in Brentwood, and they had to come up with $10,000 each to get them. That's the reason I asked the question. And that's on one of your websites.
Gotcha. So you did say speed tables, correct?
I am not positive if it was speed table or speed cushions, but
Okay.
there's 11 of them on Mossdale at $10,000 a piece. That is a huge investment for, excuse my terminology, it's a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound.
So
the people that want to drive like they ought to drive are going to continue to drive like they ought to drive and be inconvenienced by these things in the road. The other people around here that are going to be racing from speed bump to speed bump are going to have a heyday with it. Now, a lot of you have probably seen me walking around the neighborhood. I walk my Husky every morning, and I've walked the dogs around the neighborhood for a long time, so I'm probably familiar with a lot of you. But there's got to be something that can be done other than having these meetings, complaining about it, and putting bumps in the road. Like I said in the beginning, passive enforcement. It doesn't work.
And Robert, I do completely understand what you're saying. I am extremely frustrated with our policing department and their lack of response and care for our area. But it's gotten to the point where it is so extremely unsafe. I worry for you walking up and down the road. I used to talk to you when you walked your Husky. I'm the one with the lady with the dogs on the leads.
Okay.
So I used to come out there and talk to you all the time.
Yes.
I'm glad I don't see you that very often coming up here.
I've got a new Husky now.
Yeah. Well,
Stay on topic.
glad you don't come up this far because they are horrible up here closer to Bell Road. And I understand the frustrating of having to go over the speed bumps or whatever you want to call them. But there's no way possible in the near future to get the police department to ensure that these people that keep doing it day in and day out, get them to stop. I understand they might speed from speed bump to speed bump, but they're not going to be able to reach the 50 to 60 miles per hour that they are reaching when they hit my house with those speed bumps. They're not going to be able to reach those speeds. And that is the whole reason why I'm behind this. I wish the police department would sit in Shannon's driveway, my driveway. I don't care. There's a lot of people on this phone that wouldn't care if they sit in their driveway and caught these people that are doing that high speed going up and down this road. But they don't have time. I have a brother-in-law that works on the police department. They are so short-handed that they cannot respond to everything. They have to take the priority of what is the most intense thing that needs to be taken care of. Somebody that was killed in the middle of the street by gunshot is more important than somebody speeding down our road. And I get that. I don't, I understand, or a fatal accident that was caused because somebody threw a brick off off a bridge, those are more important than people speeding up and down our road. I wish the government would hurry up and put the police department in our precinct, but that's not going to happen for at least another 5 years. And this right here would be a resolution for now. Yes, it's putting a Band-Aid on a gunshot, but it's better to have the Band-Aid to stop all the bleeding than doing nothing.
She makes sense.
And I hope you understand where I'm coming from, you know, because you can only do so much. And this, I think, would help. And I do understand that they would race from speed bump to speed bump. But again, they're not going to get that fast. And if we do those signs saying how fast they're going, they're going to use those to gauge how fast they're going to boast to their people they're racing and say, look, did you see how fast I was going on that thing? I have seen them do that. I have seen that in YouTube, not in Nashville, but that occurs all the time. And those little poles that they put up, and I'm sure you're aware of this, where they had them in front of Crystals to stop people from turning left on Bell Road from Crystals, they're almost wiped out. You know, so I just wanted to address you directly, Robert, because I do understand your frustration. I do understand it's going to cause wear and tear on our vehicles, but we've got to do something to stop these people from flying. And there you go.
No.
Okay.
So thank you. Tina.
Thank you for your input. I appreciate your time and understanding. I'll have to come up and talk to you again.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
right there with you, Robert. We're right there with you.
Okay.
You know, guys, can you hear me okay? Can you hear
Yep.
me?
Yeah, we can hear
Yeah,
you.
another thing to consider on these speed, well, Robert, I don't disagree with you, but I do disagree with you. I think it's a whole societal change and all that other kind of stuff. Without getting into that, one of the things that's happened in Mossdale is when they started to implement the other speed control measures in other streets, guess where the cut through is at?
Yes, I
From
100%.
exactly. Right
That's
here.
kind of what happened. And Tina, you're right. And I've talked to a lot of police officers, and they got to go where that volume is the most. Obviously, you know, I've talked to guys on this a lot. Is that when you look at Mossdale, you know, you say like these cars are going down 45, 50 miles an hour. I remember a long time ago, I bought one of those baseball radar guns and I sat out there one time and I tracked them. I even got a bus going like 40, 45 miles an hour down the street one time. But and I used to have arguments regarding the flow of traffic. I've been told a lot of times, well, you don't Mossdale doesn't warrant having anything like this because we don't have the volume. Well, now it seems that we do now because a lot of people are cutting through. The police officers told me they can't be out here all day long. They just can't. They during the highly congested times in the morning and in the afternoon, they've got to work these wrecks. They can't be hanging out on Mossdale. And sometimes during the day on Mossdale, you may not have a lot of cars, but the ones that are there, they're doing a great job. Sometimes they think I'm dyslexic, and the speed limit's 52 instead of 25.
Mhm.
So
Right, Tony.
there's got to be something. We're kind of like the cut through now, and I'm really, really happy to see having this kind of conversation. So.
Well, you know, over a period of time, with less and less enforcement, the kids have become, well, they're never here, so what difference does it make? And it's a national problem. There is no respect for law enforcement anymore.
Well, that's off topic.
I know it's off topic, but this is a neighborhood conversation right now.
Mm.
And until, you know, some of these issues get resolved, and it's going to take more time than I've got left in this world to get some of them straightened out. So in the meantime, I guess we'll just patch what we can and move on.
Mhm.
Exactly. And that's where I was hoping you would finally understand, Robert, because I get it. I get it. I don't want the speed bumps. I don't want to have to replace my shocks more than I have to, you know, but I got to do something from people running into mailboxes, hitting telephone poles, flying past the school buses that are stopped, waiting for kids to load in, and me sitting there, uh, you know, just praying to God that they don't go flying past the school bus sitting at the top of the hill and they not see them and hit some kid, you know, and they're not my kids anymore. They used to have crossing guard down at the four-way stop sign. They don't even have that anymore for the poor kids.
Yeah, Shirley.
Well, I guess the whole thing, I guess the whole thing of which I messaged earlier is it seems that we all know that some kind of traffic calming issue needs to be in place. So the next step is to try to understand what that 66% is. And the question that I had, which thank you very much for answering it, was, is it based on the responses or how many mailings that went out? Is this the only mailing that goes out, or are there repeated attempts to get people to vote?
Yeah, so I'll ask both questions if I understood them correctly, Tony. The first is just to make sure we say it clearly. It is 66% of the people that vote. That is what is being considered. So the example that we'll give is if there are 100 property owners on Mossdale Drive, but let's say only 10 of them vote. I think more than 10 would vote, but let's just say for the math, only 10 vote, but 7 of those 10 vote yes. That's 70% of those that voted yes. That would be successful.
That would be my question.
And then as far as how many times the mailer ballot gets sent out, it does get sent out one time. The one mailer ballot gets sent to each property owner. And every once in a while, we will get emails or phone calls saying that someone didn't get theirs, perhaps it got lost. When that happens, either a mailer ballot can be resent at that point, or sometimes the voting occurs with NDOT staff directly over the phone if someone's ballot gets misplaced during transport. Does that answer both of your questions, Tony?
Yeah, another one I just thought of, and I might have missed it on the slide there. Are the funds are already appropriated? And if they are, and they don't achieve 66%, it just goes to some other project?
Yeah, so NDOT, the council does allocate a certain amount of the funding toward the traffic calming program. So there's funding available to traffic calming on Mossdale Drive. It is there. And so I guess if I understood your question, Tony, if the voting threshold after the 6 weeks, if it is not satisfied, if the 66% does not happen, there would be something else, maybe like the radar feedback signs only. It would not be speed cushions. There's not an earmark for Mossdale Drive this much dollars. That doesn't exist. It's just for all the streets that have been selected coming from the traffic calming program budget, a line item. Does that answer it?
Yeah, which thought of another question. I'm sorry, guys. So in that 30, did you say 30-day period or 90-day period?
The voting period will be open for 6 weeks.
6 weeks, I'm sorry. Is there any way that we can find out how that voting is going along? Because you could have you could reach 66% in the first week, or 65% in the last week.
Right. Yeah, and of course those percentages would vary, right? You know, if the first 3 people vote yes, then that's 100%. But if it's followed by 2 no votes, it's down to 60%, right? So that number could swing over the 6-week period. The answer is yes. I do know that there are instances where NDOT will get asked for updates during the voting. I believe usually the update is here's the percent you're currently at. We don't say who or what address has voted or not. We don't say anything like that, but I believe those updates are provided usually if the neighborhood applicant lead or the council member asks for those. So that has been done.
Got it.
Okay, I have a question. The ballots that are sent out, you said they're sent out to the homeowners. Are they sent out to the homeowner's address listed on the deed to the property, or are they sent out to the address itself?
The first thing you said, the deed, the address that is on the property owner address. So there may be instances where the street address of a property is not the same as the owner address. We send them to the owner addresses. So in some cases that could be out of state. It could be somewhere else in Nashville, but they do get sent to the owner address from the Metro Nashville tax records that are available.
Okay, so if the owner deed has it set to a rental company that manages the property for the owner, then how would that come to play? Because there's multiple houses on this road that are rented.
Right. So I think I understand your question. We are going to go off of whatever owner address is specified in the Metro Nashville tax records. So I guess if I understood you correctly, there could be an owner or a management company, two different entities, or maybe it's one and the same. I was a little unclear, but either way, there's a street address and an owner address, and we send those mailer ballots to the owner address. And just to add something to your question, if there are any entities or individuals who own multiple properties, it is one vote per property owner. So if someone owns, say, 5 or 6 properties, they're not getting 5 or 6 votes as part of this. It is a per property owner vote. And I want to make sure I don't think that was your question, but I just wanted to add to it to make sure we're communicating.
Okay, so if the deed has multiple people on the deed, then would it only be one of those people that can vote?
It's going to be sent to the owner address, and I guess if there's multiple people that own the property at that address, I guess it's up to them to decide which one of them is going to vote through the website.
Okay, so it would only be one person if there's multiple people.
That's correct. It is.
Okay.
It is. I guess. Yeah. It's. I was about to say it's one vote per owner address, but that's not true because if someone owns 5 properties, they are not getting 5 votes. So it is one vote per property owner. And in the case of if it's multiple people as that owner, it would still just be one. So if there's 6 names listed for one address as the owners, there are not 6 votes happening. It would still be one vote. I guess it would be up to the 6 of them in my example to determine who's going to vote.
Okay.
I just thought of another question. So do you have information regarding the percentage of responses in the streets around us when it came to this type of voting? I mean, if you sent them out to 100 houses, what was do you guys keep track of that percentage?
It's somewhere in our files. So the answer is we have it, but we usually do not keep track of that. The success or failure percentages from the voting is tracked and is available on one of the Nashville traffic calming web pages. So anybody can go and see how every street, many were successful, but there's been a few failures that did not create the threshold. But Tony, your answer is how many, if we send mailer ballots to 100 people, and only 10 of them vote, are we keeping track of like that data? We are not. I think it's available, but that's not something NDOT's tracking.
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious what the overall average would be on something like this.
Hey, Tony.
I'm sure everybody doesn't respond.
Yeah, what I was reading is there's an overall 83% approval.
Are we allowed to go to to other people that live on this road to talk about this and to encourage people to vote for it?
The answer is yes, Tina. Yeah. I mean, this is a neighborhood, a street. You're absolutely allowed. I mean, encouraged to talk about this project. If anybody was not at the meeting, that's one of the reasons why NDOT will record these and put them on YouTube, so you can guide them to that within about a week or so. Yeah, absolutely. You're free to talk with whomever you like, even if they do not own property along Mossdale Drive. We just like to make sure people know that the mailers advertising this meeting should have been sent to all the property owners on Mossdale. So there's no, we don't, the intent is not to have any secret info. Just since the eligible voters are the ones along Mossdale, that's who we send the mailers to for the meetings.
So I hate to ask this kind of question again. So it's on a percentage. So if you had really 3 people that responded and 2 said yes, then it's good to go.
That's correct.
Okay.
We've also seen, to use your example, we've seen 6 people vote and 3 vote in favor, and that caused a failure because it wasn't met. So we've kind of seen the small sample size go either way on different streets.
Hey, and just real quick, this is Councilmember Tosh Ellis. I am more than happy to walk the street if you guys, want me to go instead of you going and talking to someone about supporting this. I'm happy to. My cell phone is 615-237-8248, and my email address is in the chat.
Thank you, Councilmember Ellis, and thank you for joining. It's always great to hear from you.
So at the end of voting, how do we know if we made the percentage to get the speed tables out? If we, if it's going to be done or if it's a failure? Is there something else communicated out, or is it just when the equipment shows up or it doesn't show up?
Right. So once the 6-week voting period opens and then closes after 6 weeks, NDOT will do the tally, and typically NDOT then communicates with the lead neighborhood applicant as well as the council member to communicate what the results were. And they also do get posted onto the website along with the other streets with those results, but usually there's that communication to communicate to the lead applicant and the council member. And so one of our next steps on our side, NDOT as the engineers, is we're going to be doing some field measurements, making sure that the speed cushion, taking measurements. And what I mean by that is if there's very, very steep hills, sometimes a hill can be too steep where we cannot put speed cushions on them. I don't recall seeing initially many of those on Mossdale, but we're going to do some measurements to confirm that. And so we're going to be doing measurements such as that and making sure we also are seeing the street as well again before we finalize the design. And again, this concept design, this is just one slide of those 2 slides. Here's that second slide. We're showing 11 locations for speed cushions. That's just something to start with. When we do our final design, it may stay at 11, it may go down to 10, or it may increase to 12, but we like to give the neighborhood a general idea of what could be expected from a design. And I'm going to go back to the flow chart. So we are going to prepare that design. Something we want to make sure we hear from the neighborhood and or the council member is that we can absolutely have a second meeting. It would be similar to this, but we would be zoomed in with a much more detailed design. Once we prepared, we'll be able to say exactly whose property address speed cushions are being proposed in front of and things of that nature. That's the level of detail we'd be looking at the second meeting. And then after that, it would go to the online ballot. An alternative is to we'll prepare the design, but you all could choose to skip the second meeting if you just want to go straight to the vote. That detailed design is going to be available when the voting opens on the website, where anybody can view the design as a PDF on their own. So it's going to be there. So when people are voting, if they're not completely sure what they're voting on, that design is on there. We've seen different neighborhoods have different preferences. So we wanted to just offer those 2 options and hear thoughts or feedback on what the preference might be from some of you all.
So this is Sherry Gray here. Why would you be doing the design before a vote has been cast?
Because right now, property owners along Mossdale Drive would not know what they're voting on. The vote will be for, for instance, the concept design showed 11 locations for speed cushions. Let's assume a final design stays with 11 speed cushions. The vote would be for a traffic calming speed cushion design of 11 locations along Mossdale Drive. That would be what you're voting on. Right now, there's not enough detail where people couldn't really see exactly what is what they're voting on. So we want to give more information and more detail so people have a better understanding. That's the intent for why a more defined design would be prepared before the ballot.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I want to chime in. I'm Barry Sloan, live at 2908 Mossdale Drive. Concerning the cushions or the tables, I don't like them personally. They're on Owendale, and I drive my wife crazy because if we're going to Hamilton Church, I'll go out of my way to avoid Owendale. But with that said, we have lived here long enough to see so much speeding up and down in front of our house that I am for them. I'm 100% for them. It goes one of those things that you'd say, a few bad apples spoils it for everybody. It makes me mad. I hate it wouldn't be that way, but like the lady said, a Band-Aid is better than nothing. I'd rather them speed, if they're going to do it, I'd rather them speed from cushion to cushion and then have to slow down than just fly. I have literally seen them, and Bob knows who I am. I was out mowing my yard one time this summer, and at the four-way stop at Owendale, they took off, and my house isn't far from there. And I literally stopped mowing to watch them, because by the time they got to my house, they had to be, there's no telling, 50, whatever. And I watched them go down the street, and there's a curve, if you'll see it, Owendale going towards Anderson Road. It's kind of close to Bob's house. I don't know if he's right there in the curve past it. And I literally walked out in the street because I didn't think they were going to be able to make that curve. I thought they don't realize maybe first time, and they're not going to make this curve. They made it, but they were going so fast. So, my wife's telling me to wrap it up. But with that said, I hear you, Bob, and I don't like them either. Like I said, I go out of my way, but I'm so sick and tired of people speeding that I want them installed. My vote's yes tonight if I had to do it. If it helps a little bit. Like I said, it's usually what I see is the youth. But I think they will help. I think in the long run, they will hinder more people from driving so fast, because they'll have to slow down. There's no way when they get to one that they can keep this 40, 50, 60 miles an hour down the road. There's just no way they can do it. Like I said, I don't like them.
This is Shannon again. I was just going to say, I believe it's been a while since I actually applied for this. I feel like it's been maybe a couple of years, but I feel like the highest speed registered on there was in excess of 60.
No doubt.
Yeah. And it's
No
worse
doubt.
now. It's gotten worse since I applied.
I sit out in the mornings. I don't know if people drive up and down early in the mornings. I watch traffic. I'm out there before the sun comes up. And as far as the police will never be here. That's not going to happen. That's to call them, say, hey, we've got some speeding here. That's a joke if you think they're going to show up. Nothing against them. I'm all for police. God love them. They're just short staffed and they can't help it. But I sit out in the morning every day, and I'll see 2 or 3 people at the Owendale four-way stop. They just fly right through it. They don't even stop.
They don't even stop.
Do not even stop. Exactly. And I sit there and witness it. And you can call the police and say, I'm witnessing this and everything. They're just not going to come. Police is out of the picture. My 2 cents also, the little signs that you have that show you how fast you're going, that would be a total waste of money and time putting those up. Do they? Yeah, I've driven down and I see them and say, and I'll look and say, oh, I'm going a little bit too fast, and I'll slow down. I'm responsible. Before the kids that are flying, that means nothing. You think they're going to fly by going 40, 50 miles an hour and the sign says, oh, you're going supposed to be 25. Oh, I need to slow down. If you think that's going to work, well,
Yeah.
more power to you. But those signs would be a total waste. The only thing we can do are the cushions or the tables, as far as my opinion.
You know, one other thing or last thing I'm going to say, there is no consequence for these people doing what they're doing.
Agreed.
And, you know, if the police are out of the picture, there is still no consequence. You remember last year before, when I had my tablet and I was taking pictures of license plates and addresses and all that, the police told me to stop. They didn't want the information anymore. So
yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
anyway, I'm
Yeah,
done.
I hear you.
I'm enthused that everybody on here
Is participating.
participated in this meeting. And I normally don't, but I felt I needed to. So it's been a good meeting, and I'm gonna be quiet. Have a good night.
See you later, Bob.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate y'all being on here. I think we don't let our voices be heard enough.
And Shannon, I just want to say thank you so very much for being so diligent about getting this process done, because without you, I think nothing would have ever been done. So I greatly appreciate everything you do.
Well, and
I concur with that. This is Barry. Thank you, Shannon, for doing this.
absolutely.
I've actually asked about it, and I even called. And they said that Mossdale was already considered. So I was like, well, somebody's been involved, but I didn't know who
Yep.
had done it. So thank you,
Well,
Shannon.
you're welcome. And I was pleasantly surprised by Tasha's response and her responsiveness to everything that I've talked to her about. And I was thankful when she reached out to me that to let me know we were approved. I was very happy because I've been following up on this ever since I applied, and it feels like to me she got involved and helped us get over the finish line a little bit.
Yay!
Yeah, so
Thank
like
you.
I
I
said,
think we just have one more question. She has her hand raised there. I can't see the name though.
gotcha. Yeah, if you have a question, feel free to type it in
Yeah,
the chat or come off of mute.
You're currently on mute.
Okay, can you hear me?
Here we go. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. It's not a question. It's just in the last, probably the last 8 months, I've seen so many car accidents. I don't know if no one said anything about that, but down the street from here, someone ran into someone's driveway and took out like 3 cars across the street from us. And then right across the street from us, they hit a tree, and I'm not sure if they hit the car. But then last month they took out our mailbox, which was on a steel I-beam. And if that mailbox wasn't there, they would have ran into our house. I mean, someone's going to get hurt. I think
I agree.
I'm just worried somebody's going to get hurt. That's what I wanted to say.
No, they almost hit our house when they took out the guide wires for the telephone pole. They came within probably 3 feet of our front porch.
Yeah.
So that's when I started following up again. It's like, we got to do something.
Yeah, I mean, they're taking out cars in their driveways. These people down here, they had 3 cars damaged.
In our situation, we weren't able to hold anybody responsible because it took out our power, disconnected our ring, and we had parts in the front yard, and the kid that did it came back to look at the damages, and we knew what house, but we still couldn't do anything about it because we couldn't prove who was driving.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, most of them happened in the middle of the night. I mean, the two across the street did. We were out of town when our mailbox got taken out, so I don't know. No, it did happen in the middle of the night because the two neighbors called us.
I was going to I want to share something also, just one last comment. One thing that makes it personal to me and gets me so angry about it, furious to be honest with you, is I have a grandson and he spends the night with us sometimes. And like the lady was speaking, it goes on during the night too. 1, 2, 3 in the morning, way our bedrooms are. I can hear them. They'll wake me up sometime. If you're just laying in bed, you're really not asleep, and I can hear them inside my bedroom. So here they come, and they'll fly down the street.
Yeah.
And getting back to why I'm so furious, I had my grandson here one time, and he spent the night, and his bedroom was right there by the window. And he's young. At that time, he's probably about 7 or 8. And asked him, how he slept. And he said, I didn't sleep good. Father, there's too much noise. The cars going up and down the street. And that just hit me, that I can't have my grandson here, and he can't get a good night's rest in his bedroom sometimes because people at 1 or 2 in the morning are flying down the street. That I'm sorry. That makes me very angry. So, but it's just indicative that we need something. Like I said before, I don't like them, but if they'll slow them down a little bit, I'm all for them.
Excellent. Well, go ahead.
Just got to vote. Just got to vote yes, guys. Got to pull together on this one.
Yeah, our next step again as the engineers and working with NDOT is to go out and do some additional measurements and prepare a more detailed design. And again, we can certainly do one of 2 ways. We want to be respectful of what you all here at the meeting on Mossdale would prefer. We can prepare that final design and then just go straight to the ballot process where that design will be available on the NDOT website. Or we could have a second meeting similar to this where we're walking through the final design together. And then when the online ballot begins, that design will still be available on the website, but property owners on Mossdale would have had the chance to be in a similar meeting as to this, but going through the detailed design. Just like to get some thoughts or opinions on what the preference might be from you.
I personally don't know if there's really a necessary for another meeting. The only time that I would see that there might be a necessary for a meeting, and I don't know if it's possible, is after the voting started, if there was a way that there was not enough response, that we could have a meeting so we would know the ones that are gunning to get this, excuse my wording, but gunning to get this done, so that we could be proactive on getting other people to go ahead and do their vote.
Right. No, appreciate the comment, Tina. And the neighborhood we encourage you to meet however frequently and whenever you'd like, but the NDOT meetings where we would come in, the second meeting would be once the final design is prepared and before the ballot begins. That would be the timing of the second meeting where NDOT's participating.
Brad, is there a way for you to let us know when the ballots go out so that I could let everyone know?
Council member, the answer is yes. If the neighborhood or you want to have a second meeting, we would have the second meeting and then sort of give an estimate on when the ballots would go out. If the second meeting is not something that this group desires or feels the need for, then we would likely reach out to the lead applicant on the application and you, council member, to sort of give you maybe a 1 or 2 week advance notice before the mailer ballots go out. If we skip the second meeting, that's how we would kind of communicate that preview.
Okay, got it. All right. And Shannon, like I said, just call me, and anyone else on the phone, you can share my number with them, and I'll come out and walk the street with you all.
Okay. I'll do it with you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So does anybody think we need to really do another meeting? Butter cake?
No, it's Julie.
I was just reading your
Oh,
email.
yeah, that's my, no, I don't think so, but that's just my opinion.
Did you want to say anything else? You just had your hand raised.
Oh, no, I meant to take that down. No, sorry. No.
Okay. So from what we're hearing, there's a desire to go ahead and bypass the second meeting. And so the action items would be once this video is up on the NDOT YouTube page, again, give it about a week, please. That's something that can certainly be shared to anybody in the neighborhood or on Mossdale Drive. So if anybody missed this meeting, they can be informed and learn. And then the next action item is for us at NDOT, the engineering team, to do some additional measurements, prepare a more detailed final design. And then once that's ready, we will reach out to the lead applicant and council member to sort of give that maybe 2-week advance notice that the mailer ballots are getting ready to go out. So then if you'd like to broadcast that in the ways that you normally communicate with the neighborhood, you could do that. And those would sort of be the next steps as we understand them. Just want to say that out loud, make sure we didn't get that wrong anywhere in the notes that we're taking. Okay, well, this has been a wonderful meeting, and I do see a hand raised, I think, by Joyce. So I want to make sure, Joyce, do you have a comment or a question?
I do have a comment. I just wanted to say thank you to all who worked hard to ensure that this meeting is held tonight, because we have been really experiencing some challenges here as far as the street is concerned. These drivers are just insensitive and just really inconsiderate. I don't know how you would pass by a neighbor or drive in a neighborhood and think it's on the interstate. It's just uncontrollable. So I'm very, very, very happy that this meeting has been held, and not just been held, but results are going to be well, tangible. We look forward to seeing those results, if not just one result. So I was a little bit concerned when you talked about waiting for 6 weeks. I was like, oh goodness, please. I hope it's not that long, because we need something immediately done, because we've been really, really, living. I don't know how to describe it. It's been really challenging for us here. You can't sit in your house without hearing like people on the interstate just flying. It's just ridiculous. You can't live like that. We love our neighborhoods. We have really nice neighbors, and we get along very well. But these drivers are driving us really crazy. So yes, we do need something to be done immediately. If not immediately, at least something urgent to be done for us. So thank you for just listening to us, and not just listening, but putting into action what you have plan to do. So we look forward to seeing something substantial done, and something that will really benefit all of us in this area, because we love our Mossdale, but we don't want to be living like this, because it's like people just don't care about us, which is bad. I live next to Julie, and I was home that night when it happened. I believe it was about like 2 or 3 in the morning. It was really, really raining heavily. My little girl heard a very heavy sound, and we just thought somebody was trying to enter someone's house. So we went running to the front door to find out what was going on. We had no clue, but it was so dark, and the rain was just really pouring down. And then in the morning, we realized it was Judy's mailbox that somebody had just run into and just sped up. Didn't even care. So my mailbox was affected as well. Somebody opened it up, removed the lid, threw it on my lawn, and just ran off. So it just doesn't make any sense. So I'm gonna go ahead and just stop talking now, so I don't keep you listening to me, rambling up and down here. But thank you all for this meeting, and we do look forward to something tangible being done. Thank you again.
Thank you, Joyce. Look forward to meeting you.
Yeah, thank you, Joyce. Yeah, I've been very grateful for all the discussion and participation amongst the neighborhood here. So it's been wonderful. Thank you for everyone taking the time this evening. I do see one more hand raised. I believe it's by Juanita. Juanita, do you have a comment or a question? I may have misseen that, my mistake. Were there any more questions or comments? Want to make sure we spend the time answering anybody else if they have any questions.
Brad, before we go, I just wanted to share with everyone on January the 22nd, we're having our next community meeting at the Smith Springs Community Center, and Metro Police from the Hermitage and also the South Precinct will be there so that you all can voice your concerns directly to them. But I also asked them to come so that we can hear directly from them what the status is of our police precinct, what the timeline is, what the delay is, and also what they're doing to address the street racing in the area. And also when there are concerns that, need to be reported to the police and they can't make it out, if there's like that non-emergency number that we call, and what all information we can provide to them. And then we are also going to have Metro Codes do a presentation on property standards and what the process is for reporting any violations and how they follow up with that. It's going to be at the Priest Lake Presbyterian Church, not the community center. And that's January the 22nd, 6 p.m., Priest Lake Presbyterian Church.
No.
Excellent. Thank you, Councilmember Ellis, for that. Again, really appreciate everybody's time. We'll get to work on preparing that design, and once it's ready, we'll finalize it, and then the mailer ballots will get sent out, and that'll open up the 6-week voting period in the future.
And I don't know what Presbyterian Church.
Church right there.
Thank you.
Thank you,
y'all.
Brad.
Excellent. Thank you all
And
very much.
thank you, Shannon.
You're welcome. Thank y'all. Appreciate
All right.
you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. See, I never did vote there.
Okay. Michael.